Dave first, and Aaron as well. As you saw, the first thing they did, they electrocuted me. And the next thing they did, they asked me for permission to organize this conference. It was actually quite funny, because the way they approached me, it was similar to like when a young man is asking for permission to marry one's daughter. You know, they promised that they would make this a really good conference, you know, take good care of you, and actually not organize a conference, but make this an experience. And I think they delivered on the promise, and I would like to thank them. Thanks, Dave, Aaron, Joe, Merrick, Sunny, and a million other people that I haven't even met that made this conference possible. Thank you. So today, I would like to share a story with you. A story about Angular, a story about passion, and a story about community. When I joined Google back in 2010, that's how dorky I looked, with the whole proper head. I joined specifically to work with Mishko on Angular. Actually, back then, there was no Angular. There was Google Feedback. But I joined because I saw how passionate he was about the project. And I believed back then that together with a lot of work, we could make this into something extraordinary. Something that would change the way developers feel about the web, and also change indirectly how the users use the web and perceive it. Those were the crazy times when the mailing list was silent, because only a few crazy souls wandered in there. And the pull request queue was empty, and Angular had literally no bugs. Shockingly, when I joined, Angular had no versioning scheme, no releases, no Twitter, Google+, none of these things that you know as Angular today. But things were simple. No, we could iterate very quickly. We could gather feedback very quickly, because there were only a few people who would give it to us. We could make breaking changes easily, because nobody really depending on our APIs. And because there were only a few documents or documentation about Angular to be had, there were only a few typos, and only a few very poorly written docs. Actually, all 5 of them. But I actually wonder, how many of you remember that back then we used to have weekly releases, something that we do now again, and I'm super happy about that. Anybody here? Anybody here goes that far in the past? I don't see anybody. Yeah, so we used to have like weekly releases, and it was awesome. And I really love how somebody from the community maintains the AngularJS Wikipedia page. After each release, a new field in this table is added with the release date, the version number, and the code name. About these code names, you know, we get a lot of praise for them. And we actually have a ton of fun coming up with them. Back in 2010, we felt like we needed a theme for Angular. And I believe it was Brad who who suggested that it should be superheroes. So naturally, we set out to come up with a new superpower sometimes, and add this new superpower to this hero that we were building. And it's actually funny because we get suggestions and a list of like dozens of really funny code names from people all around the world. And it's just great. And the Wikipedia page, it makes it easy for us to pick a unique name every time we need to pick one. By the way, there's a typo. Unicorn Zapper is there twice. So if anybody wants to go on Wikipedia and fix it, please go and do it. So we got better, and things got a little more serious. We got better at releasing and versioning, sometimes a little too serious, if you remember RC12. If we were going like, RC12! Yeah. But as we as we were making Angular better, more and more of you were becoming interested in Angular. And we worked very closely with you. We replied to hundreds of emails and watched Twitter, replied there. But as the community grew, it became more and more difficult for us to keep track of all the emails, all the IRC, Twitter, Google+, and scariest of all, even GitHub. I don't know how many of you have 3,500 and 900 GitHub notifications, but I do. So, as Brad mentioned and Mishka yesterday, Angular was not built by, or was not created by decision of some VP of engineering. It was born out of love and passion, and it slowly built up its reputation at Google and adoption. Well, fortunately, the timing was just right, and when the community totally exploded, Angular was already well established in many key projects inside of Google. This allowed us to hire more people, and I would like to thank Google for this, and also Brad, because he's the most awesome manager you can have. So one by one, we had Brian, Naomi, James, Chirayu, Jeff, Tobias join us in the office. And we had also folks join us remotely, like Julie, Pete, Pavel, who's not here on this slide, but should be, and Matthias, and recently Caitlin. We even built Mary Poppins, as the guys mentioned yesterday. But one thing that we noticed is that even though we grew the team, the community grew even faster. And late in 2012, I had the honor of being at .js in Paris, France. Vojta gave a very inspirational talk about following your passion, because that's what Vojta does. And I don't mean giving inspirational talks, but Vojta always follows his passion. He was later followed by Fat, or Jacob, one of the creators of Twitter Bootstrap, who gave a talk about how open source is killing passion and creativity. Fat, totally burned out, was just talking about how he loves to create things and how he loves to be passionate about them. But the problem he faces is that as they get more popular, they grow from this small, cute little puppy into a big dog or a big monster that they have to maintain, and it's not fun anymore. It's just this being a slave to a project that you created. Well, back then, I wasn't brave enough to admit it, but I had the same problem. I helped to create this monster called Angular. It was a cute little puppy when it started, but as the community grew, it became harder and harder for us to just do anything, and the maintenance overhead was just becoming too big. Fat, he closed his talk by challenging the audience to solve the problem of open source so that we have more people come and start new projects, be passionate about them, but not get burned out by the maintenance overhead. Later that day, we had a dinner with Fat and other speakers, and we talked about this, and we couldn't come up with a solution. I was pretty depressed because I felt like, what can I do about this? And after a while, I was like, I really want this cute little puppy back, so I need to come up with something. And I started working on a plan. But it wasn't without complications. In late 2012, early 2013, we were approached by a team at Google who really liked some of the features in Angular. They wanted Angular, but they also wanted server-side pre-rendering. So we thought about it, and we decided to give it a shot. So we implemented a version of Angular with the server-side pre-rendering. This means that you can use the same templates on the server as well as on the client. And when the server pre-renders the HTML, it's sent to the client, and the client, when the JavaScript is loaded, it will just bootstrap and start from that point as if you somehow hibernated the application in that state. It worked really well. It worked better than anything else out there at the time. But we didn't love it. It wasn't great. It wasn't beautiful. And when the project team decided not to use a solution for non-technical reasons, we decided to abandon this effort. Primarily because it would take another 3 or 4 iterations to completely rethink this and make it something that we would love to use ourselves. And unfortunately, it would most likely also lock us into some backend, and we didn't want Angular to be tied to backend at the time. Another reason why we abandoned it was that we realized that the 2 main reasons why people want server-side pre-rendering, SEO, and the performance improvements would not be an issue for much longer, especially if we focused on the client side and made many improvements on the client side. Unfortunately, like this learning experience, it was great for us. We learned a ton, and I don't regret it, but it put a toll on Angular. It delayed the 1.2 release significantly, and we spent the rest of 2013 just trying to catch up and ship 1.2. As we were working on Angular 1.2, we were constantly being amazed by applications that you guys were launching, and it really gave us boost and helped us make Angular 1.2 awesome. Just take animations as a good example of that. I think they're fabulous. But to get to those results, you had to iterate a lot. And for example, with these animations, we rewrote them 3 times, completely from scratch. And only then we were satisfied, like, yes, this is pretty good. We should ship it. But it's hard to iterate when the infrastructure on the project is crumbling. The CI server that I built a couple of years ago started to show signs of inability to scale, especially as the team grew. The build queues were getting longer. It was taking longer to test anything, and our velocity was going down. But the biggest issue we faced was that our core or team-only solution completely excluded the community. What this meant was that when somebody from the community sent a pull request, it was most likely broken because it was not possible to automatically test this pull request. So we faced issues with broken tests or missing tests or code that would not work on all the browsers that we supported. And this meant even more overhead for us because then we had this long PR queue, and every time we wanted to merge a PR, we needed to spend hours in actually making it work for us and pass it all the tests. This combined with the popularity of Angular after a 1.0 release just made the PR queue skyrocket. And we really didn't want to make it look like we didn't care about the community contributions. We were obsessed by getting the PR queue to 0, and we were so obsessed that we had a PR day. And this is funny because when the recruiter needed to schedule an interview, she thought that I was doing public relations. No, it's pull request day. So we had a full day scheduled, and we would do nothing but once a week just spend the whole day, everybody on the team, just looking at the GitHub and try to merge as many PRs as possible or review, give feedback. We were so obsessed that we started building dashboards just to see how we were doing. This is one of the dashboards we currently use in our office. You can just go to dashboard.angularjs.org to see it. This gave us some visibility into what was happening and allowed us to see if we were making progress or not. We were so obsessed that we started building robots to help us deal with this pull request issue. Mary Poppins joined us, and one of the things she currently does is she verifies CLAs. So for each code change, we need a contributor license agreement signature. Mary Poppins automatically does that for us. there are many other things that we wanted to do for us, and this is going to come soon. We even built some crazy graphs or dashboards that would graph, what was the trend of the PR queue. And this is just the weekly snapshots of how many pending PRs were open. The green line that goes all the way up, that's the pending issues, pending pull requests, not even issues. So we felt like we needed to do something about this. And one of the first steps we took was we wanted to share our testing infrastructure with you guys so that you see in an automated fashion some of the checks that we were performing before we would accept any of the change. So we heavily relied at the time on Karma, the testing solution that Vojta and people around him built. And it was awesome, and it worked really well for us. But we needed it to be something that would work at a GitHub scale. And really the only issue was making the browsers available to Karma so that Karma can execute the tests. And we didn't really know how to approach this until I met Santi. I met him in Google I/O, and he was nothing but energetic, and he really wanted to help us solve this. So we worked together, and we came up with this scheme on how we can integrate Travis and Karma and Sauce Labs together to provide feedback on all the PRs and allow us to scale our continuous integration better. It looked very simple, but nothing is simple when there are so many moving pieces involved as in this integration. And we went through a lot of pain, and it was really only passion and this willingness to take step after step to fix issues at all kinds of layers and make it work. Browserstack guys also approached us, and we worked with them. And eventually we made the solution work with Karma, Travis, Browserstack, and Sauce Labs. And this is what most of you now see when you go to GitHub and set a pull request. You get a warning if some of your changes are breaking existing tests. So then it was time for us to launch 1.2. It was November, and instead of a big party, we had a small issue going on. How many of you remember the underscore controversy? There's a few people. For those of you that don't know, just before 1.2 was cut, we added a change to Angular because we believed that it would make it better. And we tested this change at Google on hundreds of apps, and we didn't see any significant concerns. So we added it, and we cut a release. And it turns out that this small change broke many people with certain database backends and RESTful APIs. And instead of this big party, we had this drama going on. We looked into this, we realized that we made a mistake, and it was just an honest mistake. We didn't realize that it had such a big impact on everybody. But in the meantime, we were being accused of all these things, as if we set out to make life difficult to people that trusted us. So we reverted the change, cut another release, and the drama was over. A little bit later, we had another drama going on. We announced that we're not going to support IE8 anymore. It was not a decision we took lightly, but honestly, Google as the main sponsor has no reasons to invest into IE8 support. None of our apps need IE8. And nobody on the core team has an application that they need to maintain for IE8. So IE8 was slowing us down significantly, and it was well over a year that we were supporting IE8 just out of pure passion and this aspiration to provide a great developer experience. But we felt like we needed to stop with this because I honestly believe that some people in the industry need to make hard decisions just to show that this is where we need to go. We need to stop IE8 from happening. And I know that it's very painful for some of you to hear this, but we need to move on. Lastly, when we announced Angular Dart, it was, I think, June 2013, very few people cheered. And many people were really concerned. And the primary concern was that Google is abandoning Angular JS and moving on to Dart. You know, nothing could have been further from truth. But it's really hard for us to fight this uninformed gossip, especially when there's like 1 million other things to do. So we decided, you know, we'll just focus on making Angular JS, Angular Dart really good, and proving that we are serious about both. Honestly, you know, when we started with Angular Dart, I wasn't excited. The reason why we did it was that there was quite a few Googlers that really wanted to use Angular, but also wanted to use Dart. And we thought about this, and eventually we gave in, and we built Angular Dart. And now when I look at this back, I think it was like one of the best things we've done for Angular JS. And I know that this sounds ridiculous, but over the whole year of 2013, we worked very closely with the Dart team. And one thing I learned was that these guys were very passionate about making web faster. You know, I don't necessarily agree with all the details of their decisions, but nobody here can argue with me that these guys aren't sharp and very passionate about stuff they do. Angular Dart gave us this opportunity to start Angular from scratch, you know, adjust it to a new platform, new ecosystem, and just think out of the box and create something that was not exactly Angular JS, but something that was informed by all the mistakes we've done in Angular JS. And I'm really, really happy when I see that these learnings from Angular Dart are now trickling into Angular JS. Many of the performance enhancements we came up with in Angular Dart are already in Angular JS and are being used in production applications. The injector, DI.js, is heavily informed by the dependency injection that we built for Dart. Later today, Brian is going to talk about Zone.js, a project with mind-blowing possibilities. This is something that we learned about when we talked to Florian on the Dart team, and he showed us this concept implemented in Dart. So overall, you know, it's been amazing to see how Dart has a really positive impact, not only on Angular Dart, but also on Angular JS. And I think it's going to be the same with the whole JavaScript ecosystem. Like, we're going to see many things being influenced by Dart. Just look at V8. Like, V8 is getting faster because of this competition between the Dart team and V8 team. It's really entertaining to watch it. It's awesome. Like, I love it. So after 1.2 release, we made a promise to ourselves that we're going to release faster and we're going to release more frequently. We really wanted to go back to the early days when we were very close with the community. And we wanted to increase the transparency of the project to tell you guys, you know, what was happening. We've been writing down meeting notes and publishing them, and doing many other things just to show you, you know, what was happening and what we were thinking about. It's not well-known fact that at Google, we actually use a pre-release version of Angular. Imagine what a development would look like if you were able to make a commit, and this commit would make it to the master branch of Angular repository. But within hours, this commit would propagate to hundreds of applications throughout Google. We have that today. This is what we've been doing for more than 1 year. And it's been a game changer for us. It really forced us into, you know, being serious about keeping the master branch stable about, making good changes. But most importantly, whenever a regression is accidentally merged into master, we get a feedback very, very quickly from the Googlers, and we are able to pinpoint, which regression, which commit caused the regression, and quickly fix it or revert it. On many occasions, this helped us not to ship bugs in Angular. And we love it so much that we actually started pushing these pre-release builds to Bower as well. Because we want you guys to also participate in this insane continuous integration scheme. Like, I know that some of you are not in the position to do this, but many of you are. And we would love it if you were brave enough to use the pre-release builds and let us know when you see something that is not quite right. Having this pre-release builds in Bower is only half of the iteration cycle. Because if we push out releases, or these pre-releases, we also need to be able to gather feedback from you guys. So a while back, we established a daily triaging party. No alcohol is served, but what we do is we sit around for 1 hour, and everybody is looking at the GitHub. We're categorizing issues, providing feedback on PRs, and closing any PRs or issues that we can along the way. This has been amazing for us, because I feel like we've never been more on top of regressions and very urgent things happening. And this daily triage really helped us with this. But stats don't lie. Whenever we look at our dashboards or the graphs, at the activity on the mailing list, Twitter, Google+, we see one thing. And that thing is that you guys are outgrowing us much faster than we are able to grow our team. I think GitHub really wanted to depress me, so they added this feature to GitHub where we can see the traffic on repositories. And it turns out that like almost 60,000 of you worked with our repository in the last 3 weeks. There is just 13 of us and 1 robot. So many projects were in this situation before. And they either have their team totally burned out by the community, and the community just completely rolled over them, or they embrace the community. And that's why I'm so happy that this is what we've been trying to do for several months now. Like, we really want to work with you and have you help us. But one thing that I constantly see is that whenever I talk to some of you, I feel like we're getting more credit and more respect than what we deserve. And it's this us versus them, it's like the core team and the rest of the community. And I would like to stop this, because it's bullshit. Honestly, I feel like we're just lucky bastards. Because we get to be paid by Google for doing something that we love, something that we are passionate about. And honestly, I think many of you have the same passion, and you could do the same if you were in our position. Actually, if you look at the list of team members, most of us started on GitHub, just like you. We were poking at the code, suggesting improvements, sending out PRs. And we were really passionate, and that's how we joined the team. And when we welcome more and more team members, I was so happy to share this passion with them. It was just great. Over the weekend, I worked with my son in my little garden. And usually when I do stuff around the house, it's too dangerous for him to help. He's 2-year-old, but this time it was different. But the problem he faced was that he couldn't reach, like we were cleaning up weeds, and he couldn't reach into the garden bin. And I thought that, I need to help him because I wanted him to be able to help me. So what I did is, I took this tool and a box that was just delivered to our house, and I created a staircase, and he was so happy. And I was happy too, because I was happy to share my passion for gardening with him. It was great. Not only when I was taking these photos for my family, I realized that this is exactly what we've been doing for the Angular community. Like, we want you to be able to help us. We want to enable this. And the Sauce Labs, the crazy karma Travis setup that we put together, the daily triage, the pre-release builds, and many other things that we do are just the ways how we want you to be able to help us. This is why I'm happy to announce today that we're going to create an Angular working group. And let me stress this. This is a working group. This is not a committee. This is not an expert group. We want to build this fellowship of folks that are really passionate about Angular, care about its future, and are lucky as us to be able to dedicate some of their time to making Angular better. The purpose of this group is going to be to help us make decisions on what to focus on, which things are high priority, but also help us work with the community and delegate more so that we can get more done. We actually handpicked some of you already based on your past contribution. And I'm happy to announce 3 people today that are going to join us. Dave. Dave has been just amazing. He created this conference, and he's a super sharp guy. He gave us a ton of good feedback on Angular, and I think he's going to be a really valuable person to have and to have worked with us. Michal, he's been providing super high quality feedback on GitHub. He's maintaining and building this amazing application in his company, and he's even maintaining a separate fork of Angular because he wanted some features in Angular that we were not able to merge in because of IE8 support. And lastly, Carl from the DoubleClick team. He's going to give a talk later today. The DoubleClick team, they are doing amazing things with Angular. And Carl, he's just pushing the boundaries of what's possible and pushing especially the performance boundaries. I would really like to see the cross-pollination between the Google community and the external community to happen. And that's why I asked him to join this working group. Mishko and I will represent the Angular core. And there are several more people to come. We are waiting for answers to some invitations. And we're going to be adding more people depending on their contribution and the need of the community. The key ingredients to get to this working group is really high quality contributions sustained over a long period of time, and just having passion for the project. I understand that not everybody will be able to join, because otherwise we wouldn't get much done. But everybody will benefit. The transparency in the project will increase. The decision making will be distributed. And we'll be able to delegate more and get more stuff done. I believe that this will allow us to avoid another underscore issue. We'll create a platform for IE8 support if there are some of you out there willing to do it. If you want IE8, you can do it. But it needs to be a separate fork because we need to move. We need to push Angular forward. But we are happy to help you set up this fork and share the infrastructure and give you advice on how to do this. But you need to step up. So I'm hoping that this working group will allow us to tackle bigger challenges. And there are bigger challenges out there. One of them is sneaking around under various names. Web components, ES6, Object Observe, and many others. It's the web platform of the future that is coming. And it's coming much faster than many of you are realizing. We need to get ready. We need to get ready now. And this is why we are working on Angular 2. We decided that Angular 1 will be the Angular for the current browsers. And Angular 2 will be the Angular for the browsers of the future. The future with these crazy possibilities, with a platform that has APIs that will allow us to do amazing things. And starting from scratch will allow us to throw away a lot of the baggage that is holding us back right now. The future is really about ES6 and modularity. It's a new era. It's an era of small components that are loosely coupled but well aligned. The era of monolithic frameworks will be soon over. And I believe that Angular 2 is the step in the right direction. But then again, we have this issue. We need to find a good balance between improving and supporting Angular 1, but also dedicating time to building the best Angular yet. And I've been particularly bad at finding this balance. And I actually have an apology for Raphael from the Chrome team. I let down Raphael because I was supposed to be a partner in crafting some of the standards that Angular 2 will be relying on. Just like FAT at .js, I was held hostage by this monster that I helped to create. And I couldn't get out. But after all these changes that we've been making over the last few months, I feel very positive, and I believe that in the future I will be able to dedicate a significant amount of my time to the forward-looking stuff. Stuff that everybody here will benefit from in 1 year. But in order for that to happen, I need you guys to step up. I need you to help us make Angular better. I need you to help us triage issues, to review pull requests. I need you to help each other answer questions. This conference has been an emotional roller coaster for me. And so many things happened. Like, when I was coming here, I met the nicest security officer at the San Jose airport. He was super polite. And I actually thanked him. I said, "Sir, thank you for being so nice." You know what he said? He said, "I believe that you don't have to be an ass in order to be safe." You know what? I thought about this. So it totally stuck with me. And I thought, he's right. You don't have to be an ass to build an awesome web framework. I met a ton of really nice people here. John, I don't know where you are, but I know that you are here. He has this tattoo. I've never met him before, but I talked to him for 10 minutes. And I was just mind blown. He's like the nicest person I've met here. All of you are nice, but he's the nicest. And sometimes I feel like, this tattoo he has, work harder, be kind, do more. All of us could use this tattoo just to remind us what our values are and what our purpose here is. When I was building this slide deck and preparing for the conference, I wasn't quite sure what to do and how to prepare. And I procrastinated a lot. At least, I think that was procrastination. But now when I look at it back, it was really just thinking about things. And when we got to a hotel room here, I decided that we need to decorate that door. So I took Brian, and we decided to build this Angular out of Angular on a door. Actually, I decided that we need to do it, and I just took Brian and just forced him to do it with me. And as we were doing it, Adam, the guy on the photo, he just walked by, and I asked him, hey, would you be interested in helping us? And he was. And he totally helped us build this logo. We had a lot of time. We shared stories, and we laughed a lot. It was great. And this gives me hope that we really can work better together, make Angular better. Many describe Angular as a library. Others correct them that it's a framework. Now, Mishko here, he's still delusional. He talks about HTML compiler. For me, it's a passion. It's a desire to be better and to improve upon myself. It's a way of life, and I want to share this with you guys. Thank you.